Let's go. Let's go. So I got a cool question recently. What is the one thing that scares you the most about the LSU 2020 season? To answer, I want to ask you a question from the magical greatest team of all time 2019 season. What was the weirdest outlier performance from last year? And you don't really have to think that hard. The answer is Ole Miss. Do you remember that game and all the weird stats that came from it? I was so fascinated about that game, as was the national media. It gave them an excuse to say, this LSU defense is uncharacteristically bad. What are they going to do against Clemson and Ohio State? Oh my God. So, like many of you, I tried to figure out what actually happened. And when you look at the numbers, LSU's defense in that game was pitiful. It gave up 614 total yards. Against all other Power 5 teams, it only gave up 384. But did you know that that game was the only game where LSU played back-to-back road games since 2014? Yes, it is a true statement. I was shocked when I saw it too. Maybe that's why LSU was so bad. The week before, they played Alabama in a back-and-forth shootout. And then the next week, it was another back-and-forth shootout. Remember, Ole Miss, LSU was scoring at will. The defense just got tired. Or maybe it's the fact that back-to-back road games are tough. Take a look at the 2019 data, for instance. I went through and saw that SEC teams were 4-6-1 against the spread. But if you take the horrible Arkansas Razorbacks out of the equation, we're talking the worst team in SEC history. Teams were 2-6-1 against the spread and a minus 87.5 against the number. So LSU was a victim of playing a rough back-to-back game against an Ole Miss team that was getting better and was pretty fast. You take a look at Ole Miss's numbers, they were way better in that game than what they're used to. It was a total outlier performance, but also a very rough situation for Ed Orgeron and the Tigers. Looking at next year, this is where it gets interesting. LSU not only plays one, but two sets of back-to-back road games. In mid-October, LSU has to travel to Florida, and then the next week, they do play Arkansas, a game that they will win, but the Razorbacks will be a lot better because they finally have a competent coach. Or at least I think they have a competent coach. Either way, they will be better. This is key, and we haven't really stressed this enough. LSU, to close out the year in 2020, they have to go to Auburn, and then they have to go to College Station to play Texas A&M. I know a lot of you are like me. I first thought that LSU always played Auburn in October, which they do, but the SEC has decided to switch up the schedule. More on that in next week's video. It's tough to go on the road. It's tough to play against really good Power 5 level athletes in back-to-back weeks. Think about it this way. You play on Saturday night. Teams normally fly back directly after the game. You get back in at 3 a.m., which ruins your sleep schedule for the next day, and then you got classes. Then you got to prepare for another team. It's tough, and history shows it's tough to go back-to-back weeks on the road in the SEC. Remember, LSU, this is uncharted territory. Last year, it was the first time that they had done it since 2014. Remember that. And now you got to do it 2 times, and you have to play Texas, and you have to play Alabama. By the way, you got to play Alabama and South Carolina at home. Then you have Auburn and Texas A&M. The schedule is what concerns me the most. Remember this, Joe Burrow was so great, it didn't matter when or where LSU played anybody last year. But those days are gone. LSU will fall back down just a little bit. They're not going to be an unbeatable force like they were last year. The actual schedule matters. I've always been this way when it comes to college football. Everyone says it's all about talent and then coaching. I disagree. It's about talent, then scheduling, then coaching. It was a fun episode today, right? Yeah. Subscribe on YouTube. follow on Instagram. Get us on Podbean at Power Hour LSU. And let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think it really matters if LSU's playing back-to-back road games? It's worth the discussion. That's what we do on Power Hour LSU. Boom!